Hey, how's it going, everybody? Josh Marsden here. I've got an incredible session for you right now. I've got Dan Rose, CEO of sixpackabs.com and also Seniority Health. Now, he's truly one of the kings of YouTube marketing, hands down. You've probably seen one of their videos at some point over the past few years. His companies have over 5 million in YouTube subscribers. That's insane. They've also spent over 28 million. That's right, 28 million on AdWords since October 2011, mostly on video ads. The bottom line is this guy has done it. You know, he's speaking from experience. So you want to take lots of notes here so you don't miss this incredible session on how you can leverage advertising your health and fitness products on YouTube. Dan, I really appreciate you being on, man. I'm so looking forward to this session. Thanks again for being a part of the Success Summit.
Yeah, man. Thanks for inviting me to come on. I think it's going to be great. It'll be great to share some of this stuff with everybody.
For sure. I mean, there's going to be so much value over the next 60 minutes. I'd love just to kind of take a moment for the audience to get to know you a little bit better. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience?
I think that was a pretty good rundown. I think probably the thing that surprises people the most when they see our business, because we have a big company now with about 100 people working for us, but a lot of people don't know that we actually started in an apartment with just me and a couple other guys and a couple of laptops. And basically the way we scaled it all up was through the power of YouTube video advertising. Back in the beginning, one of my friends was a personal trainer, and I just thought that people would, there'd be demand for his training if we could just put it online. And the main way we were able to scale it up was YouTube. And a lot of people don't know that in the beginning we never really had any venture capital or any investors or anything like that.
Right.
The way we funded the business was just we had a little bit of savings, and I lied on a bunch of credit card applications to get a bunch of credit cards. So a lot of people don't know we kind of started off in humble ways like that. But it's been a great journey, and excited to share some of the things that helped us.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I mean, the thing is that you doing that may seem a little risky, but at the same time, what's the safest bet you can make on yourself, right? And that's what you guys were doing.
Exactly, and I want to talk a little bit more about that later on, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's like a real high risk to take out the credit cards like that. But I only did that once I had data that showed that it was going to be profitable, so it wasn't as risky as it sounds. But we can talk more about that later on.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's awesome, dude. So what year did you guys get started?
It was 2010. The last part of 2010. Basically, we made the product in the summer, then we started selling in about October.
Okay.
With about like a $10 a day advertising budget. So it was pretty small to start off in 2010.
Yeah, but that's pretty incredible, because 2010, 7 years ago now, and now you guys have 100 employees.
Yep. Yeah, it's around 100, and then a few people working overseas as well.
That's awesome. That's crazy. Well, cool, man. Well, and are you from Texas?
I moved down here to start the business about 7 years ago. I lived in Massachusetts originally. We were talking about different places to all move together to start the business, but we decided on Austin just because of we think it's the best city in business in America, and also it's a great lifestyle here, so that's why we decided to move down.
Okay, awesome. Well, good deal. Good deal. So I know that you already had a few different things you kind of wanted to dive into today, right?
Yeah, a few different things, and then we'll see where the conversation takes us.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. So what's the first thing you want to dive into?
So I think the biggest thing that I could probably contribute to the people listening is just talking about how to get started with video ads. I know some people may already be started with video advertising, so I'm hoping to give a few advanced tips. But I also want to give some tips for the people that maybe have never made a YouTube video before and don't know how to get started. And I have kind of a 10-step process that I use to walk people through how to get started, where I've talked about this in a few different seminars before. So I kind of wanted to run through that and show people how to get started, and the people who are already started can jump in the more advanced steps and just keep the process going.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds awesome, because I know that most of our audience, they're fairly new to internet marketing, running their e-commerce business. They're still trying to push their business upwards, up the 6-figure chain and up to 7 figures. So that'd be awesome to hear that process. Okay, well, do you want to go ahead and just dive into it, and I'll basically kind of just ask questions as we go?
Yeah, sure thing.
Okay.
Okay, so there is one really important point I want to make before going into like actually what to do. So I talk about this a lot because a lot of the times when I'm talking to an audience and I'm talking about YouTube things, people have a lot of preconceived ideas of what they're supposed to do. So before you talk about what you should do, we have to talk about the wrong beliefs that we have to remove first. So I say the first step to achieving success on YouTube is to stop listening to all social media gurus. And people kind of listen to me like, whoa, like that sounds kind of extreme. But there's a lot of advice coming from the social media gurus that I feel is not really the best for a lot of people starting off on YouTube. And the main thing that I feel like can be really dangerous from a lot of people starting off is that social media gurus, they usually do their best to help people. They're genuinely good people, and they want to help out. However, they're running a business, and they need more customers for their business. And it's very difficult to turn away a customer, even at times where you may want to turn them away, where it would be in their best interest. So the first thing you should know is that not every business is a good fit for YouTube, and not every person is a good fit for YouTube. I think that most people are, but I think it's important to just make for sure that you are before going forward with YouTube. I would say as well, another thing that social media gurus tell you, which I think is really damaging, is that social media gurus typically are not specialized in one type of site. Usually the advice from social media gurus would be to do a little bit of Facebook and a little bit of Twitter and a little bit of YouTube, and you do a little Pinterest and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I do feel like for someone who has full-time social media people on staff and like a company full of people, like for example for us, that is what we do. We are on every social media profile. But for people first starting off, I feel like that advice can be super, super dangerous because when you're a solo entrepreneur, you have real limited time, real limited money, and I feel like just establishing a little profile in Twitter and Pinterest and all these different things, which never really become the dominant #1 profile in the market, I feel like it's a mistake. Because think about it from the customer's point of view. Like let's say if you're looking for workout advice on YouTube, you're not looking for the 9th best workout channel for the type of workout you're looking for. You know what I mean? You're looking for the best. Now, all of us as consumers, we want the best solution for our specific problem. And if you're the 2nd or 3rd or 4th best, then you're probably not going to get that much attention. So I feel the better strategy, which won't be taught by social media gurus, is to assess the viability of every social media platform, Facebook, YouTube, like all the other ones, and decide on one single social media platform to focus on until you get to the sides where you have multiple people managing social media. So if you listen to this talk today, I think for a lot of people, YouTube will be the one to focus on. Where on the other social media platforms, essentially you just repost what you posted on YouTube. So I would encourage people to pick one when they're first getting started and to later on add in the other profiles.
Totally makes sense. I totally agree with that. I did have a question for you. So, are typically e-com companies selling health and fitness products good fits for YouTube in your opinion?
I think almost always they are, and generally I usually give people like a few different tests. The first test I would say is your product visual, like is seeing it going to be a lot more powerful than reading about it? And I would say for nearly every health and fitness business, yeah, the answer is yes. Because just in our experience as well, we've tried to sell things through sales letters and text ads and things like that. We've never really achieved success with that kind of thing. And when you think about it from the customer's perspective, it's easy to understand why. Like for example, you Josh, have you ever tried to do a workout like from an ebook or like from text and tried to figure it out?
Oh, yeah, totally.
And I've tried to do that as well. And, if you're advanced and you already know what the exercises are, you can do it. But it's real difficult if you're a beginner to know exactly what to do. And compare that to just like following along with the video. You just copy what the person is doing in the video. And for a beginner, it's much easier to see. And I would say as well, not only that, but health and fitness is something where there's a lot of trust required. When you're buying a health product, it goes beyond just spending the $50 or $100 on the product. There's risk beyond losing the money, where like let's say if you're following a diet and it makes you gain weight, or you know what I mean, messes up your health in some way, there's more trust required than just a regular kind of product. And when somebody sees you on video, they're going to build that kind of trust. So I would say for the people listening to this right now, nearly everybody is going to be a really great fit for video. The only types of health and fitness products that I would say are not a great fit for video are the type of product which may not be that shareable, or which may be a little bit embarrassing. One which which I think is a great market opportunity, which I'm personally experienced with, is the cellulite market. Cellulite's an issue that a lot of women struggle with, and we've personally done very well running cellulite commercials and basically like selling products about cellulite in the female market. However, we have found that organically, just building a channel around cellulite, it's not really possible, just because it's not the type of video that women want to post on their Facebook wall. So I mean, not to say it's still a really good business for other channels, but probably best to take that to other social media platforms or other advertising networks. But I would say outside that, anybody in the health and fitness market, outside of like embarrassing products, is a good fit for YouTube. And I know what some people are thinking out there right now. They're like, oh, I could never be like Josh and Dan, just like making videos like this. And first of all, you could. And second of all, even if you're not on camera, you can still really take advantage of YouTube, just as I have done. For example, I very rarely appear on camera in our videos. I'm almost never on camera. Mostly it's trainers who know a lot more about health and fitness than me, and I specialize in the marketing. And you can do the same thing. If you want to specialize in the marketing, you can partner with someone who's great on video and benefit from YouTube without ever being on camera.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's awesome. I mean, so how do you recommend like choosing what social media platform that our audience should focus on, especially if they have limited time, which most do?
Actually, that's a real good question, and I've talked about this a lot with my girlfriend Jessica, because she's in that process right now with trying to choose which platform. So I feel like when you're first starting off, there should be 3 that get the prime consideration: Pinterest, Facebook, and YouTube. Just because Facebook and YouTube, they're the biggest, and I feel that the way the trends are going, they're only becoming bigger.
Pinterest, but yeah, I want to hear more about this.
And the reason why I would say Pinterest is for certain female-dominated product categories. I know from experience that people have done very well with Pinterest for certain categories. So I would say Pinterest only for female-oriented products. That I know people can do well with that. If you don't have a female-oriented product, if it's male or unisex, and I feel that Facebook and YouTube should be the ones you consider. So in terms of like how you decide between all those, I would say the biggest distinction is for something which is better for long form videos, such as workouts or something like that, YouTube is probably better. For something which is better for text and short form videos, Facebook is probably better. And I would say also just keep into account too, like how much you personally like each social media platform. If you hate going on YouTube all day, you're probably not going to be motivated to do it. If you like going on Facebook a little bit more, I would give a little bit of weight towards that as well. Just some examples. One thing that I think can do really well on Facebook is like recipes and things like that. You can make a post with a recipe or like a short video with a recipe, and that's actually the main thing that we advertise on Facebook right now. I would say, on the other hand, more complex nutritional information, like if you're breaking down the benefits of vitamin D, you know what I mean, in a 15-minute video, or if you're doing a workout or something like that, I think that type of thing is more suited for YouTube. So just think about, like, do I want to post mostly short form or mostly long form, and that'll be what you decide on.
Yeah, that's great, because it's a simple way to make that distinction and make that decision on what platform you're going to focus on. And in a way, you can't really go wrong with either one, because they're both like really large, massive platforms with a lot of reach.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's definitely a good tip. Okay, I know I kind of stopped you throughout your process. Feel free to keep going, and I'll just ask questions as you go.
Oh, it's all good. Okay, so that's the first step. Just clear out all those beliefs from the social media gurus. Most importantly, focusing on only one thing rather than sprinkling all your oceans, like all your resources like rain over the ocean there. Here's the next thing I think. Once you stop listening to the social media gurus, and once you've applied some of those tests to determine if your product is a good fit for YouTube, I think it's important to build what I call the channel building mindset. I've talked with a lot of people about establishing YouTube businesses. At one point, I used to consult for people, like teaching them how to do YouTube. So I've seen some people do well, and I've also seen a lot of people fail with YouTube. So thinking about the #1 biggest reason why people fail, it's because they don't have this channel building mindset. And what I mean by that is they upload a video, or maybe 2 or 3 videos. Maybe they throw a little bit of advertising on it, and it never really takes off. And then they're like, "Oh, YouTube sucks. I'm not doing any more YouTube like this," and they just abandon it after 2 or 3 videos. And I think that's really a tragedy, because people who know how YouTube works know that YouTube is not set up to kind of reward people just upload a few videos and like hit and run like that. Thinking about it from Google's perspective, if they want to build a website that people keep coming back to, they want to reward channel building, or people that regularly upload videos and build a following where people just keep coming back. They don't want people to just find a video that they like and then that person never uploads anymore and then they stop using YouTube. So that's the reason why 1 or 2 videos uploaded will almost never get any traction, either organically or with advertising, and it's probably not going to work if that's all you're going to do. What is going to work is if you build a channel, which means that you regularly upload videos. What we do is twice a week. You don't have to do that often. Even if you do once a month or some regular frequency, that's going to be the key to just taking off organically. Not only that, but building a channel is becoming more and more important for advertising success as well. It used to be back in the beginning, you can just upload your commercial and run traffic to that and make some money. You hardly ever see that anymore because people are seeing more advertising, so they're looking a little bit more to see if your advertising is legitimate. One thing that we find is that people click on an ad, and then what they'll usually do is click around in the organic videos, the workouts and nutrition advice, just to verify it's legit before buying. And if they see a lot of views, a lot of subscribers, if they personally get good results with the free workouts and the free advice, then I think it makes the advertising work a lot better. So that's what I would say is the third step. Just get that channel building mindset and just realize it's not going to happen in 1 or 2 videos. Just commit to regularly uploading videos if you're serious about YouTube.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, and that's number 2, right?
That's the third one, actually. The second one was just determining if your product was a good fit.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Okay, I gotcha. Okay, I don't have any questions about that. That sounds awesome. I love how you're just breaking this down very simply, making it super easy for someone to jump into and follow step by step.
Awesome. Thanks.
Cool. All right, keep going, man. I'll just like chime in as I notice I want to ask a question.
Okay. So the next step, like once you have that mindset of, I'm not just going to hit and run and like upload 1 video and do it. The next step, I think, is decide on your uploading frequency and start regularly uploading videos. So this is the part that a lot of people struggle with. But it's really important, especially when you're first starting off and you don't have a team handling all this stuff for you. And the way that I think about this is like, we had the discussion in the beginning of our business where, we decided we're going to upload once a week. But there would be some weeks where, the trainer we were working with back at that time, you'd be like, man, I just don't have any great ideas this week. I don't have anything that's like really brilliant. So, I'm just going to take a few weeks off. When I think of something great, then I'm going to upload. And I'd really encourage you guys not to do this. And the rationale that I explained to this at his time was that when you're on YouTube, it's not like, watching a movie or like your favorite TV show or something like that. It's not exactly, it is in a sense, but it's not exactly like a broadcast where it's just a one-way conversation. When people are watching on YouTube, they think of you more as like a friend. And imagine like you had a good friend and you guys like talk regularly, but your friend didn't call you for a few months and that was really out of character for him. And then you're like, man, what happened? Was something wrong? And he's like, oh man, I just couldn't think of any good stories to tell you. So I was just saving it up for a few months. You know what I mean? Like your friend. Sorry, what's that?
I said, no, that's not going to happen.
Exactly, right?
You're going to find a reason to talk to him, so you need to do the same.
Exactly. Like in the context of a friend relationship, it's not really appropriate to like only communicate when you have really good stuff. People just want to regularly hear from you. So commit to that regular uploading frequency, even if it's once a month. In terms of the logistics of filming videos, there's probably a lot of other resources out there that they can get deep into the logistics of microphones and cameras and things like that. It's comparatively easy to learn about those kind of things. And I would say the biggest thing just in terms of video logistics is even if all you have is, if all you can do is like record a webcam video or something with your iPhone and just edit it with iMovie to start off with, then just start with that. Just get started with something and you'll learn along the way. You'll always get more sophisticated later. So let's talk a little bit about what to upload, because a lot of people kind of struggle with this because they're thinking about, how can I regularly make a video every single week? So here's what I think is the best way to get started. This is an exercise that I've done before in a few like marketing seminars for writing video sales letters, and I think it's really good for YouTube as well. What it is to brainstorm what the 10 biggest pain points or frustrations in your market are, the 10 biggest problems your customers want solved, and then to make videos about that. So just to give you some examples. So for example, our original product, Six-Pack Shortcuts. Obviously, the main thing that people are looking for is to ultimately get the six-pack abs, right? But that's not the only thing that people are looking for. There's a bunch of kind of ancillary benefits that are related to that, which they're also looking for. For example, one necessary step to get six-pack abs is losing your belly fat. And some people are thinking about the benefit more in those terms of just losing it rather than like actively getting six-pack abs. Other people are thinking about losing your love handles. There's some other people too who are interested in like building muscle muscle on their chest and arms and things like that. There were some people who were interested in improving their cardio, and basically just from talking with our early customers, we determined a list of like 10 problems our customers want solved that we thought we could help them out with. So we made videos on those 10 topics, basically they got a pretty good response. And the reason why I think it's important to do this and to make videos on 10 different topics rather than how to get six-pack abs, part 1, part 2, part 3, and to not assume you completely know what your customer is looking for, is that when you make videos about these ancillary benefits, you're probably going to be surprised at how much some of them take off, and you'll probably want to incorporate some of these seemingly secondary benefits into your product. One example for us is that in the beginning, when we were first started selling products about getting abs, we thought that it would be mostly people who were almost having abs and mainly interested in ab exercises. What we found out is mostly people with 30 to 40 pounds of belly fat to lose, and where the ab exercises weren't even really a consideration, whereas mostly about the fat loss. And we never would have known unless we uploaded those videos. So that's how I would say to get started. You pick your uploading frequency, brainstorm the 10 biggest pain points, and just first task, just make those 10 videos addressing those 10 biggest problems.
Yeah, so brainstorming your 10 biggest pain points. So what are some strategies that people can do to be able to get those? Because what if, because brainstorming might be kind of hard for like an e-commerce company that maybe, hasn't even gotten past 100,000 a year. Let's just put it that way, right?
Yes.
So what can that owner do to try to get some of those?
Two different strategies I would use. The first one is just surveying, where if you can just gather a small email list of even like 200 to 300 people. If you could send them out a survey and just ask them, just straight up, like, what are your biggest frustrations with the benefit you want with getting six-pack abs or losing cellulite or whatever your product is? What are the biggest things you're looking to get out of this product? And the most important thing I think with surveys is I've made a mistake in the past where I sent out multiple choice surveys to get these kind of things, and I learned later on that was a mistake, because when someone's in a multiple choice format, there's probably other things they were thinking about which you didn't even think about. It makes the data a little bit harder to interpret when everything's written out, but ultimately you don't want to assume that you know the choices in their mind. So I think it's very important to make all these survey questions open-ended, where they can write whatever they want. So that's the first step. But the second step, which we do that which a lot of marketers don't do, is interviewing customers in person. If you don't have actual customers at this point, just people inside your target market. And the reason why I think this is important to do, in addition to the surveys, is that there's certain embarrassing frustrations which can be very, very key, which people are not really going to tell you about unless they have that type of trust and you're having a person-to-person conversation. For example, we launched a product called My Bikini Butt, right? What we thought it would be mostly younger women looking to improve the shape of their butt so they could wear a bikini. We had a bunch of conversations with people in the target market, though, and one thing I was surprised to find is that even women in pretty good shape that I thought would look pretty good in the bikini, many of them were not willing to wear a bikini under any circumstances. So we started to talk to them about why that was, and we found out there were two major reasons: stretch marks and cellulite. Now, we could have made a product to address the stretch marks at one point, but that would have required manufacturing. But we were able to make an information product addressing the cellulite, and ultimately that's what ended up taking off. So I would say that survey, and you'll get the surface level admittable things, and then conversations for the deep things that are important but which they can't talk about to a stranger.
No, it's huge. It's huge. And like you said too, you don't have to do it necessarily with your customers. You could do it with just your market as well. Get on the phone with them, asking questions. Build that rapport, dig some of those reasons out that, you can use in your own product and your marketing. Same with like surveys. There might be opportunities to reach out to, companies that maybe have a large list that aren't direct competitors, or go to groups that have like a large amount of people in your market and see if you can speak with the admin and be able to survey the people in that group, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's on Reddit, etc. That's powerful. It just gives you so much good like qualitative information, qualitative data that you can use in your marketing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest key as well, because a lot of people they rely overly on one or the other, like the conversation, the way people are feeling, and the vibe, or the data. And I feel like that's the key, combining both.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. Well, cool, man. I don't think we're up to 12 yet, right? So
okay, I keep the progress going.
Yeah,
okay, so you got your channel, you got a good base established before you even start advertising. And I feel like that's key. Now you're ready to start advertising. But there's one more step before you actually start running your ads, which is to get AdWords compliant. And this is something that a lot of people struggle with YouTube ads, coming from the affiliate world or like other kind of things. So I think, YouTube, obviously it's really changed my life. I believe that AdWords and YouTube, it's the best. It's the most powerful content and marketing platform in the world. It's amazing. It can really change your life, the power of this platform. But it doesn't come without a price. I mean, obviously you got to pay for the advertising, but in addition to that, you have to help Google and YouTube achieve their goals as well, which means that you have to become compliant with the many different guidelines Google and YouTube has. This is a real big frustration for a lot of marketers because there's a lot of very stringent guidelines on Google and YouTube. Basically, when you're first starting off, you're not going to be able to make any type of marketing claim whatsoever. They've really, really cracked down on this. So you're going to have to make a video sales letter, commercials and things like that with very little in the way of marketing claims and very tame marketing claims if you do put anything in. There's all sorts of disclosure pages you're going to have to add to your websites, for example, privacy and terms and conditions, explanations how everything's worked. There's also restrictions on things like using before and after pictures. There's restrictions on making claims that could be considered medical in nature, such as one of them, for example, is like boosting testosterone or human growth hormone, where you have to be very careful about the way you phrase those kind of claims. Anyways, there's a lot more you can read about this on Google's website. If you just Google Google AdWords policies or Google AdWords guidelines, you can read more about this. The bottom line is, though, there's no way around this. You got to be compliant with the guidelines if you're going to advertise on Google, and since YouTube is a part of Google, you got to be compliant with the advertising guidelines to stay on YouTube advertising. So it's going to be a little bit of a process, but I'd encourage you guys to go through it. Once you guys do, you'll have access to the best traffic in the world, and it's going to be so worth it if you guys comply with all this stuff. I would say my general approach to AdWords compliance is just being very conservative when you start off. Don't take a lot of chances. Don't make a lot of crazy claims. Just get yourself established until you have an AdWords rep. Once you're spending more money per month and once your channel grows bigger, Google will actually give you a personal AdWords rep where they can help you solve all these kind of problems, and essentially, unless you're doing something really unreasonable, they can help you solve any suspensions or like ad problems that you have. And as long as you're a legitimate business, then you'll be able to make a lot more claims, and the guidelines will be loosened at that point. So that's what I'd say. Just study up on those AdWords guidelines, get compliant, and then you're ready to start advertising.
Yeah, so true. That's so true. And we've talked about that too here in the summit a bit with another speaker or two, that it's just so important to really know the guidelines on any advertising platform. And I'm glad you mentioned that because, we just need to hit it home, throughout this entire summit, because that's how you're going to be successful, is if you know those guidelines, you're not going to hold yourself back from being able to leverage YouTube advertising or any other advertising channel that we've gone over throughout the entire summit. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Exactly, and I know I have friends as well. Like, for example, my friend was selling a testosterone booster, and he was asking my advice, and he's probably the #1 most successful consulting client I ever had. Started from zero, scaled his campaign to spending $500,000 a month within 3 months and making profit on that. Got suspended after that. So ultimately, he only made net profit like $300,000 or $400,000. So it was a real good 3 months. But would you rather have a real good 3 months or like years and like millions of income coming in?
Right. Totally. And you got to protect your reputation with the advertising channel, right? I mean, you got to make sure that you're compliant from day one, and you don't basically walk that fine line. I know that I've heard that. I've been trained on that. I know that other speakers on the summit have said that. It's just extremely important. I mean, you would totally agree with that, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's such a key point. And another difference between AdWords and Facebook is that a lot of people don't know this, but a Facebook suspension is fairly temporary. You just make a new account and you're back up in business. AdWords, though, has technology where pretty well they can track the person making the account. So if you try to make a new account, all new accounts will be suspended if you did something which is really over the line. I would say, though, that's really rare unless, they're pretty good about that, where they won't lifetime ban someone unless they really deserve it. But I would say just definitely stay far away from anything which could get you a lifetime ban, which is mistreating Google customers, which could cause them to do that.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, so just to go to the next step, so now you're compliant. How do you actually start advertising? There's a lot of different options for advertising on YouTube. What I think is the #1 best option to get started when you're first going onto YouTube is what's called YouTube discovery advertising. So just to break down the different YouTube advertising formats. There's basically 2 main advertising formats on YouTube right now. There's InStream Advertising, which is the skippable ads that you see before the video. If you've ever been watching a YouTube video and then you say, skip this ad in 5 seconds, that's an InStream ad. Discovery ads are the kind that show up in the related video on the sidebar, where they don't go automatically in the video player. You have to click on them, and then you go to the video page, and then you watch the video in the channel or on the watch page there. So very important distinction, discovery versus InStream ads. The advantage of InStream ads is that you have much bigger scale and you get much lower prices per view. InStream ads are the best for a bigger company like ours, and especially for, you know, a much bigger company like Geico. That's the main thing they're going to be focusing on. Discovery ads, the disadvantage is a much higher cost per view, much lower scale. The advantage for entrepreneurs, though, and for people that are looking to focus on YouTube, is that discovery ads will have a much bigger channel building effect, and they're we'll go into this later on, but they build much more valuable remarketing lists. The reason why Discovery builds your channel more than InStream is that InStream, if your video, for most of the advertising, they're unlisted videos, so there's no way to get back to your channel and to watch the other videos. For Discovery ads, you can set them to go straight into your channel, so all your other videos are showing up alongside your commercial. And that's important for 2 reasons. If you don't have very many subscribers and you need something to get that momentum going, this will kind of get the momentum going. The other reason is, when you're Geico, or to some extent even when you're a company like our size, people have seen your advertising before. They're familiar with your YouTube channel. So when they see the InStream ad, it's in the context of it being from a trusted source. When you're first starting off and you're not yet a trusted source, I feel like it's better to establish that before going into InStream and just asking people to buy just on the basis of 1 single ad. Discovery, I feel like, is the way to go. So let's talk about discovery, the main factors, and how to optimize that. So essentially, kind of wish I had a little diagram here. Maybe we can edit something in later on. But basically, there's 3 main aspects of a discovery ad: the thumbnail image, which is the image of representing the video that people would click on; the headline, the text that shows up next to the video; and then the body copy. The body copy. If you've seen when you search on YouTube, you'll see advertisements that not only have a headline but have a little bit of body copy below that. For the most part, though, the body copy does not show up because almost always it's showing up in the related videos. So mostly it's just going to be the thumbnail and the headline. Of those 2, by far the most important of those is going to be the thumbnail. What you want to have in your thumbnail is something that kind of represents the benefits of the product, something that catches attention without being overly deceptive. Some things that have worked well for us is just showing our trainers, shirtless. Sometimes showing our trainer shirtless with a female trainer next to them to show, it'll make you more attractive. Or doing some kind of cool lifestyle thing like driving a classic car or a Corvette. What I have learned to stay away from hard experience is overly attention-getting images, like, for example, a picture of a woman in a bikini. It'll get an incredible click-through rate. You'll get real good prices on the ads. However, if you're selling a male-oriented product, most of the people clicking on that will just want to see a picture of a woman in a bikini, and they're not really interested in your product. So it's not really any good to get those people to click. So avoid, super deceptive, bikini type of shots, or I guess the equivalent would be, Chippendales type of thing for female products, and just make sure that you're attracting people to your product that will actually buy it with a thumbnail. Right. And then last thing related to the headlines. With the headlines, if I had to give 1 single tip in the headline, I would say the most important thing isn't identifying the benefit you're going to provide to the person. It's identifying who should click on this ad. For example, one of our best products, or Abs After 40, one of the best headlines for that was how men over 40 get abs. Just identifying that this is only for men over 40. We've also seen success with just headlines as simple as men 45 to 54 must see this, running the ad to men 45 to 54. That's my biggest tip for headlines. Just identify the person, and that's more important than talking about the benefits.
Makes sense. No, that's a really good tip because most people think of headlines differently, especially if they're used to advertising on like Facebook, for example, or even AdWords, But that's a great tip, to use the headline to be able to kind of make sure to attract the right people to your content and to your ad.
Yeah, right. And I think that is a good point. A lot of people haven't caught on to this yet because a lot of people say that for the most part, human nature doesn't change. So marketing doesn't change. And I would say that is true for the most part. But there are some times where there's a major shift in technology which is changing marketing itself. And I think this is one of those times. The reason for that is now you can use what's called demographic targeting. So, for example, a headline like "How Men Over 40 Get Abs," if I was running that in the New York Times, it wouldn't be very effective because 75% of the people
can see it. Yeah,
exactly, are not in the market. But if I can run that only to men over 40, yeah, that's when it becomes effective. So combined with demographic targeting, it can be really effective.
Yep, I agree, totally.
Okay, yeah, you want to go to the next point?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so that's the biggest thing I would say. When you're first starting off, build your channel and just focus on doing that and the discovery advertising. Just become a master of discovery advertising. Once you become good at that point, I would start in on the InStream Advertising, or in other words, the skippable ads that show up before the video. Like I said before, the advantage of this is you're going to be able to get much bigger scale, get much lower cost per view, and once your channel is established, you will probably get higher ROI on this kind of advertising once it's coming from a trusted source. So the biggest keys for InStream Advertising. There's no thumbnail image for the InStream Advertising. Instead, people have the option to skip the ad. So the biggest key, obviously, is that you don't just seem like every other ad and you don't trigger that reflex to skip. So you need some type of pattern interrupt, which is beyond even like a hook that they talk about in copywriting. Not something which is going to catch somebody's attention in 30 or 45 seconds, but within 5 seconds. And I'll give you a few examples that we've used in our ads. Let me think of the best one. So there's a few different ones, but I would say probably the best pattern interrupt that we've ever used is one that we call the fat chunk commercial. And there's a few different variations of this. And basically it starts off like this. Do you know what's holding you back from getting a ripped body and six-pack abs? And then this guy throws in this big rubber chunk of fat and he catches it and he's like this. And then it turns out it's talking about how you need to lose belly fat before you get six-pack abs. So you can see it's not outrageous. We're not setting off fireworks or anything like that. But it's a little bit unusual because usually commercials don't start off like that. So make sure you've got a good pattern interrupt. And what I would say is when you're first starting off, I would look at the view rate metric. The view rate metric is essentially the number of people actually watch a significant amount of your ad and don't skip. I would aim for a minimum view rate of 25% before like trying to optimize other areas of the ad. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say in InStream ads that's really important is to have a really strong call to action. Just make it real definite what you should do. And the single biggest mistake I see when I'm coaching people on InStream ads is that they wait all the way to the end of the video to give the call to action. I feel like this is the mistake. Like, for example, if you ever watch like an infomercial or even like a long form direct response commercial, they don't wait until the very end to give you the opportunity to respond. Some people are ready to respond within 30 seconds. So you just want to let those people leave the commercial and go right there. Right. So I would say that's the biggest thing. Well, within 1 minute of the ad, give a call to action and leave your call to action on screen for the remainder of the ad. So that way, at any point throughout the ad, when they're ready to go watch the entire sales video, they can just leave and they don't feel like they have to watch to the end to even know what to do next. I would say as well, in addition to that, InStream advertising, like I mentioned, you can get a lot more scale, but it is a lot more competitive. So you need to have realistic expectations for what you're going to need to do to have success in the InStream market. So I would say when you're starting off with discovery, I would have a minimum testing budget of $5,000 just to test things out. I would come in with a little bit more when you're going into InStream, though. What I usually recommend for InStream is a minimum budget of $15,000 to get started, and obviously if you can do 20 or 25, just in experimental ads, it's better. And I would say as well, a minimum of 5 unique different commercials, not variations on the same script, but totally different commercials to start off with. You're going to have to make a little bit of a bigger commitment, but if you make this work out, much bigger scale, you can be making millions of dollars per year off of this InStream advertising.
Yeah, totally. And would you say that's based off of your market? Because I know most health and fitness markets are pretty competitive, usually. Not always, but usually. versus there could be a niche market out there right now, right, that one of our audience members is selling a product in that they may not necessarily need to be competing with a bunch of people because it's a very niche market. What you're saying, like, kind of, is it dictated by the market and the competitive nature of the market?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely a good point. Where it definitely, like, some niches are like not as competitive, and some niches are more competitive. And essentially, what I've seen is that even for like less competitive niches, there is still a certain level of competition from just a general advertising on the InStream. The reason for this is that a lot of advertisers, including us, are not only using targeting specific to the market. Like, obviously we advertise on people watching videos about six-pack abs, but we also advertise to just a general demographic. Everybody on the website between the ages of 45 and 64. So you're still going to be facing a good amount of demographically based competition or untargeted competition in InStream, but it will be less than if you were facing, targeted competition of people bidding much more. So yeah, I would say that is definitely true. Competition will vary by markets, but even in low competition markets, there's still going to be, to some extent, demographic competition.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I just wanted to bring up a point there because I just thought that there was maybe an opportunity there. Just knowing, like, advertising on different platforms, that competition really does drive the price up quite a bit in order to get solid results sometimes.
And I would say as well, if it's a real niche thing, I'll give an example of one niche thing we were thinking about launching, but we haven't yet. Like one problem that guys will come to us with is what is referred to colloquially as man boobs, gynecomastia. So that's something that guys struggle with, usually caused by hormonal imbalance, and combined with body fat and a few other things. So something like that, a very specific problem, I feel is perfect for a discovery headline. If you got that problem and you see that headline, then you're watching right away. But it's probably only 1 in 100 people. You know what I mean? But that one is enough to justify the advertising. Right. Probably not enough to justify broadcasting your ad out InStream to all 100 people. But I would say the more niche your product is, probably the more you should skew towards discovery.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great tip. Super tip right there. Awesome, man.
Okay, so once you got your discovery locked down, once you got some InStream locked down, now it's time to get advanced ninja tricks and start using remarketing. Would you say most of your audience is familiar with remarketing, or do you want me to explain that?
Well, go ahead and explain it, because I'm sure some of the audience is, but there might be some business owners that aren't. Yeah,
just for the people who haven't heard about it yet. So for those of you guys who haven't heard about remarketing yet, this is amazing technology which is going to totally revolutionize the way advertising works. And I urge you to really hop on board. It's not as complicated as it seems, and it's got a ton of potential. So basically the idea with remarketing is that when somebody visits your website or your YouTube channel, what you can do is you can place a cookie on their computer where you can know that that person visited your website. And then what you can do is when they go back onto the internet and go to other websites, you can show them your ads regardless of which website you've gone to. I'm sure you guys have all seen, as a consumer, ads that seem to follow you around the internet. In the beginning, when we were first doing this, people thought, like, man, are you guys like buying all the ads on the internet? And no, we weren't doing that. The way we were doing it was remarketing and making it seem like we were doing that. And the reason why it can be so powerful is that the nature of products is that most people in the world are not going to be interested in your product. If somebody has shown some interest by watching part of the sales video or even watching a YouTube video, they're probably a better prospect than someone who's just completely cold. So in terms of the technical side of installing the remarketing, it's really not as complicated as you think. All you got to do, I did this myself, I have very little technical skills. You take a little piece of code, paste it into your website, and that's basically it. It starts collecting data, and then there's different ways to organize that list inside of the AdWords account. So you can do it yourself, even with no tech guy, and then if you do have somebody handling your tech for you, you just send them that code, they install it, and you're in business. So in terms of how to get started with remarketing, I would get started with both of your advertising formats. Remarket with discovery ads, remarket with InStream ads, and at this point I feel it'd be appropriate to go into banner advertising as well. And I would say the biggest thing when you're doing remarketing versus cold advertising is that cold advertising is more about convincing people that that they want the benefits that you're offering. You know what I mean? That they want to put the work into this and lose their belly fat and get six-pack abs. With remarketing, they're already convinced on the benefits. If they don't want to get six-pack abs, workouts, they probably wouldn't have watched, the VSL in the first place, or, watch a commercial or whatever. So it's established that they want the benefits, but now you just got to establish that you're the credible source and you're for real to deliver these benefits. So I'll give you an example from one of our products, Test Max Nutrition, which I'm representing right now. For example, one of our best commercials for Test Max Nutrition is with one of our trainers, where he's kind of like an older guy, he's kind of decrepit, and he gets ignored by a few women, but then he takes his shirt off and he's ripped, and then all the women notice him, and it kind of gets across not only the benefits of you're going to be ripped, but like the lifestyle benefits of women will notice you, you'll feel better about yourself and things like this. Works really great to cold traffic. We tried it in remarketing and it was a complete bomb. And I think the reason for that is that, people already were convinced that they wanted that. They just weren't totally convinced that we were the right way to get that to get to that goal. What we found worked much better in remarketing was recipe videos. For example, Clark would show how to make a healthy version of chili, which boosts testosterone. He has his kale soup that he makes, which did really well. A bunch of taco recipes where essentially it was giving them samples of free content from the program, and they could see, this is a legit thing. This isn't just another internet scam. Like, I could actually do this. Another thing that works really well in remarketing is testimonials. Just seeing other guys like them be like, oh, this isn't just for fitness models, this is just for regular guys as well. That'd be my biggest advice on remarketing. Make your creative, or by creative I mean the videos you use in your ads, more about trust building rather than selling them on the benefits. And just go into all three advertising formats: the in-stream, the discovery, and now go into banner advertising too.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool. That's some awesome tips right there. Good deal. Good deal. So I picked up a few things. And I'm just going to point out a few things just so this way the audience can like really catch on to a few of the like bits and pieces and the kind of the value nuggets that you've dropped there. So for one, remarketing was extremely effective for you with that example when you used it to build trust, and you did it by just providing value instead of just saying, hey, buy my stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's an important point. I just want to make sure the audience really heard that, because that's an important point to be able to really leverage remarketing. And I think that's an extremely valuable tip in a health and fitness market as well, where trust is everything. And you may get them right in front in your ad, so they're definitely interested. They've shown that intent because they saw the ad, they clicked on it, they saw the offer. If they didn't buy it, it's not that they don't want it. They just need some more convincing. And typically with a health and fitness type product, to your point, you got to build that trust, and that's where remarketing comes in.
Yeah, and it took us a long time to learn this. Like, this is from years of experimentation. Yeah, so that's a real key point, building the trust in remarketing. And I would say as well, we've tried the opposite of just, running the recipes to everybody. And that also didn't work, just because people weren't sold on the benefits yet. So I would say the opposite is important as well. Make sure that people want the benefits before you're talking to them about how to get the benefits. Totally.
Awesome, man. Good stuff.
Cool. Okay, running to the next tip right here. So you got your discovery on point, you got your in-stream advertising on point, and now you're doing remarketing. Now it's time to get even more advanced into the call to actions. And there's a few different call to actions that can be really important for YouTube advertising. The first one is the 300 by 60 companion banner. I don't know if you guys have probably seen at some point on YouTube when you see the skippable in-stream ad. At sometimes you see a small banner showing up next to it, which is usually called the branding banner. Usually the advertiser will just put their logo or something in there, kind of like a small horizontal banner on top of the related videos. That's the 300 by 60 banner that I'm referring to. And what we found is that the main factor, obviously in the success of your video ads is going to be your sales funnel and the video ads themselves. But these 300 by 60 banners, it's worth testing because they can make a significant difference. So in terms of the type of thing that you want to put in there, what you want to avoid is just what regular advertisers do and just put like your logo or something like that. There should be some elements of branding, but there should also be some direct response elements as well, where there's a definite call to action. Just to give you like a few examples of what we would do. One ad that we would run is, for example, a GIF ad, an animated 300 by 60 banner talking about 3 tips to boost testosterone. So it'd say 3 tips to boost testosterone, a picture of Mark, watch video now. So it's not, abs after 40 by now. It's, promising free content on the other side. Another example from our product Test Max Nutrition is that we've tested a bunch of different things of like trainers and things like that. What ended up working the best is pictures of food, in particular pictures of tacos. So what we did is we have a picture of a healthy looking taco, and then it says learn the foods that boost T. These are real simple to make. You could make them themselves if you have basic Photoshop skills or real cheaply with a designer, but definitely worth making some 300 by 60 banners. Next call to action that you have to become the master of is the auto-generated call to action. Have you ever seen, Josh, when you're watching a YouTube video where rather than that 300 by 60 banner, 3 related videos from the advertiser show up beside it?
Oh yeah, totally. It keeps you engaged with the channel, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's within the AdWords interface. That's what's referred to as the auto-generated call to action.
Okay.
So what we found is that this can be very, very powerful, but it actually took us a while to figure out how to even control the video showing up in here because YouTube doesn't tell you about this. So essentially, the videos that are going to show up in here are the most recent playlist on your channel which you have modified. So what we didn't get very good results with this at first because we had people on our team like constantly modifying the playlist. So it was essentially a random playlist that showed up. But then we made this rule once we figured this out that whenever you modify playlist, you have to modify this one last so we can control which one shows up. So always make sure the one you want to show up, you modify it last when you're modifying your playlist. So in terms of what you should put in that auto-generated call to action, essentially what I would put in there is your best remarketing ads, the best content which is going to build trust and amplify the message of your cold traffic. For example, for Abs After 40, our workout product, our main product is selling, the commercial is selling the benefits. In the auto-generated call to action, we have workout videos, kind of showing them examples of building trust. Same thing for Test Max. We have the main ad selling the benefits of it, and recipe videos in the auto-generated call to action. For the most part, as far as which one to choose, there's no definite answer as far as whether a 300 by 60 banner is better than an auto-generated call to action. I would definitely test both. For the most part, though, we found that a well-optimized auto-gen usually beats a 300 by 60 banner. And I think the reason for that is it's interactive. You can watch videos rather than just click through. So I would say just definitely make sure to test both out, though. A bunch of different 300 by 60s and a bunch of different auto-generated playlists. Last call to action overlay on YouTube that I want to talk about is the call to action overlays. So these will be the small things that show up on your phone or on your computer screen when you're watching an InStream ad, or even when you're watching a discovery ad. In the lower left, you'll see these. Usually there's a small image and a headline next to those. And I would say these can be very important just for getting click through as well. The biggest mistake that people make with these kind of things is that they try to use the same picture that they're using like a thumbnail, like a whole body shot. But if you've ever seen these, it's so minuscule, especially on the phone, that it's hard to even get like an upper body shot in there. So what we do is we try to zoom into a specific body part, or just feature one specific food. Like for example, a shot of abs, or a shot of a taco, or you know what I mean, just something smaller than an entire human body. Something
can be seen by basically just any device.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a very small, it's a favicon, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I would say with the headlines as well, same principles as the 300 by 60 banners. It shouldn't be like buy now. It should be promising free content. Like we do 3 tips to boost testosterone. Let's say, if you were in the cellulite market, for example, 3 tips to reduce cellulite, or, promise some kind of free content in that call to action. But that's about it for the call to action. Just get real good at that CTA overlay, the 300 by 60 banner, and the auto-gen. But was there any other call to action things you want to go into?
No, I mean, that's good, man. That sounds great. I mean, you're giving us tons of education on just how to leverage YouTube altogether. I mean, it's like a crash course on generating profits on YouTube. It's awesome.
Awesome. Great to hear.
Yeah, cool. Awesome, man. Was there anything else in those steps?
Oh, yeah, and then here's the last step.
I'm a little lost on the numbers a little bit.
You should have numbered it on paper, but this is the last step right here.
Okay.
So you got your channel on point. You're regularly uploading videos. You got your discovery, your InStream remarketing. You got your call to actions on point. At this point, you're probably making pretty good money with YouTube, and you're probably spending pretty good money on the advertising as well. So it's not exactly definite at which point you're going to get a YouTube advertising rep, but I would say that's the ultimate step to achieving success on AdWords and YouTube. Getting an AdWords rep. So usually, from my experience, just ourselves and working with clients, it's going to come probably sooner than you think. Probably around the time you're spending $10,000 per month, you're going to get an AdWords rep if you also have a good social media following of, say, maybe 20 or 30,000 people following you on social media. If you don't have any social media following, you typically have to be spending a lot more, but it's going to happen pretty fast if you have some people on social media. So why is it so important to get an AdWords rep? There's a couple different reasons. The first thing is, like I mentioned before, dealing with AdWords compliance can be very difficult sometimes. Google, I still believe is the best advertising platform in the world, but there's a lot of issues that can come up that can deal with. I'll give you one example of these type of issues. So the biggest ad buy that we ever did in our company's history, we spent, I believe, it was about $50,000 on buying the masthead ad, or the ad that appears on the homepage for every user. Not for in the United States, so we figured we were making a lot of sales in Australia. So we bought the Australian YouTube masthead ad. On top of this, we were spending about $20,000 a day, so 70 grand in one day in advertising. Biggest advertising day in company history. So we run this, we were planning this for months. We were expecting, hopefully at least more than 70 grand in sales. The ad is running for about 2 hours, and our YouTube channel gets suspended. And all the ads are going to a channel that says this channel has been removed for scams, spam, and commercially. You know what I mean? Horrible disaster. We would have been all done if we didn't have any YouTube rep. Like, that would have been the end. But what we were able to do, we get our YouTube reps on the phone within, like 15 minutes of this happening. Like, we had a team of 5 different people, and they start calling people. Anyways, within 3 hours, we're able to get the whole thing resolved. Our channel's back up, and they offered us a second masthead ad to make it up to us. So that story kind of illustrates why it's so important to have YouTube reps.
Oh, yeah,
if you have your campaigns cranked in, this is what's going to make it sustainable, just in case something like that happens.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Wow. I mean, because you could have lost a ton of money if you didn't have a relationship with a rep.
Exactly, yeah. And
crushing, for a business. It doesn't even matter what scale you're at, because, if you're a younger business that doesn't have a lot of advertising budget, then, that can cripple your advertising budget and your efforts, especially if you're trying to promote an offer or a series of offers. And if you're a bigger business, it's still money. It's still money like you'd be flushing down the drain if you didn't have a rep. And that's cool that the rep also took care of you by giving you an extra, like you called it, I've never heard that before, masthead ad? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's basically the YouTube homepage ads, the big horizontal.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I've only done very little YouTube ads. Most of my advertising for our company, for our clients, has been Facebook or AdWords or Google Display. So it's cool. It's super cool to learn this. So I think it would be helpful for the audience to kind of just get a summary of number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, etc. Because I know we didn't really number them as we were going through them. So this way they know, okay, this is number 1, this is number 2, and this is number 3, etc. It just would provide I think a ton of clarity for the audience.
Yeah, sure thing. I can run through everything real quick. So just to recap, step number 1, stop listening to social media gurus. Clear all those negative beliefs out of your mind, especially the belief that you should go onto every social media platform. Pick one and focus on it. Before doing that, figure out if your product is a good fit for YouTube using the test I mentioned before. Nearly every health and fitness product will be, outside of embarrassing products, so probably you will be a good fit for YouTube. Step 3, get in the channel building mindset. Realize it's not going to happen just in uploading 1 or 2 videos. Commit to regularly uploading videos, and realize that only once you have an established channel are you going to achieve success. Step 4, start regularly uploading videos. Pick your frequency. And the way to get started was, like we talked about, getting those 10 biggest pain points and problems your market wants solved through a combination of surveying and talking to live customers, and just make videos about those 10 topics. And if necessary, adjust your product itself if one of the videos surprises you and gets a bigger response than you think. Step 5 after that is to get AdWords compliant, just to make sure you're starting off with very little in the way of marketing claims, that you don't get suspended within the first few months before you have a rep, and to just make sure you're being stringent and just following all the rules and not having any problems. Next step after that, start using discovery advertising, not the skippable ads, but the ones that show up where you have to click on them in the related videos. This will be the best way to build your channel when you're first starting off, and also just to show people that you do have credibility before you're a very well-known advertiser. Once you are well known, start going into the in-stream ads, and the advantage of this is going to be, like we talked about, more scale, cheaper cost per view prices, and basically a lot more potential with this advertising. After this, go into remarketing and start putting cookies on people's computer and showing them more ads once you know that they are a prospect for your business. And like we talked about, the remarketing ads should be different than your regular ads, not selling mainly the benefit of the product, but just showing that you're trustable and convincing them that you're the best solution for the problem that they have. Step 9 was going to be to master the YouTube call to actions. Make sure you have a few good 300 by 60 banners. Remember that the auto-generated call to action is generated by your most recently modified playlist, and fill those up with essentially your best remarketing ads that build trust. And the last thing, for your call to action overlay, make sure you have a visible image that can be seen, like you were saying, like a favicon almost, in that tiny little format, and a headline which is promising free content and not go to my website and buy. And then last step, scale your campaigns to the point where you get an AdWords Rep, and that's going to make things sustainable. And I want to give one more bonus tip, because I mainly give this towards people just getting started off, but I want to give one advanced tip for people who already have large YouTube campaigns. People who already have YouTube AdWords or YouTube Reps. What I would advise you guys to do, one big winner for us lately, is to ask for an invite to the TrueView for Action Beta. It's called the TrueView for Action Beta. This is very important because it's a new form of advertising for direct response on YouTube, which now only the biggest advertisers are getting access to. We're on this right now. It's significantly outperforming our other campaigns, and I think it could probably do better for you as well. So what you basically get with this TrueView for Action Beta is that you get a much better call to action, especially on mobile phones and tablets, where it shows up bigger and bolder than the standard call to action. In addition to this, rather than the 300 by 60 banner, you get your YouTube channel banner showing up much bigger, and again, it's just a much better call to action. A lot of people don't even know about this, and if you don't have an AdWords Rep, there isn't any way to get access to this beta. But if you have an AdWords Rep, ask them for access to this. If you're a direct response advertiser, I think it's really going to enhance your campaigns.
Totally. That's cool, man. Yeah, TrueView, I've never even heard of that myself, so that's awesome to hear. And that's a stellar tip, because you can get on that right now. You can really leverage that and take advantage of that. So yeah, a lot of our audience, they're going to be using this process you just taught us, which was awesome, by the way, to be able to really build a lot of traction and get a lot of traffic into like an upcoming promotion, for example. Like, they want, because ideally, the idea from the summit is walk away, have enough like knowledge you've gained from all the different legends in the summit to be able to put together like a profitable promotion, right? So how, just if you could leave us with maybe like a tip here on how to take your process and then use it towards an upcoming promotion, like what are some of the key things that you would do in that case?
I would say there's a couple different approaches that you could take to it. The approach which I have personally taken lately, going into new social media platforms like Facebook or things like that, is to hire someone to do it for me. So I mean, that's definitely a legitimate approach if you do have the money to basically like seek out an expert. But even when you are seeking out an expert, you do have to know the general principles, just to know the person really is an expert. So even if, in that case, if you do end up going with an agency or someone to manage your ads, just make sure that they're kind of passing the steps on this test and that they're not making any major mistakes in the way they're doing their advertising. I would say the second step, like if we were to go into something ourselves, I think the single biggest thing is to just make a real big commitment to at least spending the next 30 or 60 or 90 days to really figuring this out and kind of conquering this platform. There's a lot of different things you could do, but essentially I would just run through the 10-step process and just make sure that it's the number one priority of your company, and that if you're going to commit to this, that you really commit to it big. So essentially I would just make it a checklist. For example, just these 10 steps that we ran through, I would just make that checklist and say, I'm not doing anything else in my business until I run through this checklist. Okay.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's awesome. Well, Dan, yeah, thanks for being on here. I really appreciate it, man. I want to be respectful of your time. It's been great to have you. How can the audience follow up on this and be able to basically follow you and follow your company and at some point, learn more from you?
If you guys want to see our fitness channels, our two channels are sixpackabs.com and Seniority Health on YouTube. Seniority Health is our channel for older guys. What I encourage you guys to do is just watch a few of the videos and go to our websites, and you'll start seeing the remarketing ads, and you can just see firsthand, how we're applying this in our own business. And then if you just want to hear more from me personally, I have a personal YouTube channel called Pajama CEO. Where I upload more like business-oriented videos like this. I'm not uploading very much right now, but whenever I do an interview or like something I think would be valuable to share, I post it there. So you can follow me personally on Pajama CEO.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, Pajama CEO, check it out, guys. This was awesome. You guys just learned a ton on really running YouTube ads profitably, whether it's for your business in general or for your next promotion. Phenomenal stuff. Thanks again, Dan. I really appreciate you being on here, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been great.
Awesome.